Right, Henry, welcome.
Thanks, Ros.
Well, we're in the Quake Bar for anyone that's never been here before, and anyone watching can see. But yeah, we're in this lovely bar at the Craigellachie Hotel, and we're just about a month away from the Spirit of Speyside Festival. This is your first official one as chairman. Before we get into all of that, do you want to just tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the festival?
Absolutely, Ros. Well, it is great to be here. Great to see you again. Obviously, we met last year when you came up for the press trip, and I was sort of learning the ropes at that stage, just having been asked to take over the chair role. We're in the heart of Speyside, which is fantastic. I actually went to school not far away from here at Aberlour House, and my parents stayed in this very hotel, so it's bringing back a lot of fond memories for me of my childhood and waking up in the morning smelling the barley, the malted barley in the air from around here. I mean, I've lived in Elgin for 25 years. I moved up here initially to work in Baxter's, and then joined a seafood firm in Buckie where I'm working, and we became suppliers to the festival about a year and a half, or just over a year ago. I was asked if I would join the board, and at that stage George McNeil, who was my predecessor as chair, was looking to hand over the ropes and asked me if I'd be keen to do that, and that's how I'm here now.
So if someone's never been before and they're coming for the first time this year, what would you say to them that they can expect?
Well, a friendly welcome for starters. There's so much for people to see and do here in Speyside. We have various different events, as I've mentioned already, for non-whiskey aficionados, as well as for whiskey aficionados as well. So you really have an opportunity to go to a very high-end experience and free tastings as well. So Speyside has a huge amount to offer, such natural beauty and the River Spey running just alongside us here in the Craigellachie Hotel as well, and the mountains, the Cairngorm's not far away, where obviously the water of life comes from. It's just a fantastic area to visit.
And it's not, so people might think it's a whiskey festival at Speyside, I need to be like a huge connoisseur or know loads about it, but it's actually not. There's lots of different things for different people, whether or not you love whiskey, not really sure about whiskey, hate whiskey, you can come and still have a great time.
Absolutely. I mean, there's we have a number of non-whiskey events. Johnson's, for example, a partner of ours, they are Johnson of Elgin, woven experience with a whiskey afternoon tea thrown in. Norcando Wool Mill. There's distillery photography, sort of link tour, and a wildlife walk. One and sold out event is Spirit of the Spey, which is a canoe trip down the River Spey, absolutely fantastic. And Spey Candles, who are running a whiskey candle making experience. And a number of free events as well, including sort of mini tours of distilleries, and a trip to Fintorn beach huts as well, with another festival partner.
Yeah. And aperitivo as well, that's a good one. Mike was talking about that, you go down to the bridge and have a dram, and yeah.
That's right, exactly, yeah.
Something that's quite personal to me for this year is the best new events, because I'm going to be the judge.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So do you want to tell us a bit about how that kind of comes about and how you whittle it down? Because I'm not going to all of them, obviously.
I know, and we had a lot to choose from. The short list that you've got to choose from, whiskey Falcon flights and Dawn drams and mystery drams on the Speyside Way, silent disco. We actually have a committee, a subcommittee of the board who meet to look through all the best new events, and that's kind of how we whittle them down. But I think next year, a bit like we do for the Whiskey Awards, we're going to externalize it, just to get a little bit more of an input from people outside of the board itself.
Yeah.
Because clearly I think it shows respect for the people that are putting on the new events as well, to think that we're giving it as the attention it deserves, because it is really fantastic to see the number of new events.
And one of the things that's quite unique that's been going for, I think, maybe 10 years now is the Whisky School, isn't it? So do you want to tell us a little bit about that for anyone interested?
Yeah, well, the Whisky School is, again, a very special part of the festival. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. It normally starts. The festival has its opening dinner, which is normally on the Wednesday, because that's a sort of industry event for all of our festival partners to invite their customers and guests and to that. But prior to that, the school itself starts on the preceding Sunday and lasts for 3 or 4 days. So it gives people the opportunity to come to the area, visit parts of the whisky industry that perhaps they haven't seen before. We have a number of distilleries in the Speyside that are not normally open to the public, but will be open for the festival itself. And that, again, is where the Whisky School comes into its own, because they can really get into the background of a lot of these distilleries that sometimes just aren't available. And it's also a great opportunity for networking and listening to and speaking with a lot of experts from the industry who give up their time freely to put the school on.
So we're going through a bit of a downturn in whisky, which is kind of carrying on from various different economic factors. But this seems quite a positive thing on the horizon. You guys have got record ticket sales. There's obviously still a very big interest in whisky and coming to Scotland.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think it's important to say that, yeah, record ticket sales is great. But it's about quality. It's not so much about quantity. We are a very sort of big area here in Speyside, and I know that getting around is quite challenging as well for people visiting different events. So transport and accommodation are always challenges we have. I'm also conscious that whilst we're recognising success of the festival, it has been a challenging time for the industry as well, and there are certainly difficult times currently and probably ahead, and so I think we have to balance our enthusiasm for the festival with the recognition of the fact that for some people and some organisations it has been quite difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming in.
Yeah, definitely. And just to explain a little about the Whisky Awards, as well as the festival, you have Whisky Awards for the area.
That's right.
But they go around, people they go out to pubs and venues, and people the public try them, and it gets whittled down publicly. Is that right?
That's right. So I mentioned before I was at Murray Golf Club on Friday. That was a tasting which they got to try the number of the categories there. Well, and then yes, they from that and a number of other tastings. Similarly, they go to our judging panel prior to the final results being awarded at the opening dinner itself.
Nice, something else to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
For anyone that's never maybe been before or doesn't really know, we're coming up to the festival. What are your sort of highlights of this year as your first one of chairman?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted that, for starters, we are hosting the festival in Craigellachie at the Craigellachie Distillery, just literally up the road from here. It's in the heart of Speyside, and Craigellachie have never hosted the opening dinner and ceilidh as part of the festival before. The fact that we've got partners now wanting extra tickets for the dinner is a great sign, but because of the limitations and the size of the marquee, we can't do that, unfortunately. Also, the ceilidh, which is held in the marquee, is sold out on the first day, and the actual ticket sales were a record for this year. Well, in fact, forever, since the festival's going for 26 years. So it's really encouraging and a great sign that people want to come and visit Speyside. And also, we've got over 600 events this year. We've also got over 55 new events as well. So there's a lot of variety out there, a lot of opportunities for people to sample all sorts of different activities and events during the 6 days at the festival.
We're here now in Craigellachie, which is in Craigellachie, as the name would suggest. And it's not normally open to the public. So what are you most looking forward to about this year's Spirit of Speyside Festival?
For me, it's my favourite festival of the year, every year. I love the fact that it brings in people from all around the world and you get to see so many familiar faces again. And the events that we do, obviously we're opening up Craigellachie, but we also open up Altmore Distillery for only that weekend of the year as well. Again, another distillery not open to the public. So being able to take people around a distillery that is almost unattainable normally is a really rewarding experience. So both Craigellachie and Altmore, but the one that we love the most is the aperitivo down at the Craigellachie Bridge. So this year we're doing 3. Normally it's only 2 nights at 5 p.m. Now I believe it's the Thursday night, the Saturday night and the Sunday night that we're doing it. We have about 50 guests that come. 50 is probably lowballing it. It's probably up towards the 70s, 80s. We open up a couple of really rare bottles of Craigellachie. So every year we do, Craigellachie and Altmore. Every year we do a festival bottling, a limited edition festival bottling for both Altmore and Craigellachie. Altmore was the first year we did it last year. We'll do it again this year. So we'll open up a couple of those bottles for people to try. And we'll bring something rare. Last year we had the Craigellachie 41. That we had out. So now that is just to share amongst any of the guests that have signed up for that event. So that one's really rewarding. You get to see a lot of friends, a lot of familiar people. And what's happened over the last couple of years is people are bringing their own whiskies. So we're getting to share. So last year there was some Cavalan, there was some limited editions from the festival itself, and people were just sharing whiskies, and it becomes this wonderful social event. So I read on Reddit that it has been voted the thing to do for Spirit of Speyside, which quite fun for us because we thought it was just a one-off that we did down the bridge, down at the river one year. We thought it was nice, but it's really managed to build this traction for an event. It's just basically outside pouring some whiskey.
It's good. It's very good. It's so nice the time of night as well. Like it's kind of this evening.
That golden hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the sun's going down. And let's be honest, there's a sense of place when it comes to whiskey. And to be able to drink a Craigellachie or an Altmore Speyside whiskey underneath that bridge on the little beach next to Spirit of Spey is quite up there with experiences when it comes to trying Scotch whiskey.
So before we go and see the distillery and have a chat about the production, do you want to tell us a little bit about the history? Yes,
absolutely. It's a very old distillery founded in 1891, right here in the heart of Speyside, as she says, and right in the middle of the village of Craigellachie, and something that was prominent for the sort of establishment of this village in general. Now, it was founded by 2 gentlemen, 2 almost forgotten fathers of the whiskey world. And we always like to champion them and make sure that they aren't forgotten. So the first one's Alexander Edward. Now, Alexander Edward was a local man. He actually was involved with a number of distilleries across Scotland, mainly here in Speyside. He inherited Benrinnes from his father. He built Craigellachie in 1891. He also built Altmore Distillery. He also built Dallasmore, that became Dallas Dew. He built Oban on the complete other side of Scotland, and he was also involved with Benriach. So very influential gentleman when it came to single malt whiskey, quite an understated person. He also was very much involved with the village of Craigellachie itself. So not only did he build a distillery, but a number of years after the distillery, he built the Craigellachie Hotel. And the road that links the distillery to the hotel is actually Edward Avenue, so named after him. He also brought electricity to the village, very much in the idea that he wanted to power his distillery, but brought it to all the locals here and built a number of villas here as well. On the other hand, we have Peter Mackey, who was a Glaswegian and a part of the White Horse blending dynasty there. He also had a distillery under his name. He had Lagavulin. He worked out of Lagavulin in Islay. And he was part of the consortium that built Craigellachie in 1891. Now, he was known as Restless Peter, always looking for something to do. It wasn't just whiskey he was involved in. He championed age statements within whiskey and the maturation of whiskey being a standardised thing across the industry. He had a Kerrigan moss farm on the west coast that was used to create medicine from the moss, so always up to something a bit different. He was always cladded in head to toe in like Highland gear, in tweed and different things like that. So very interesting gentleman, two gentlemen very polar opposite, but brought together and created this wonderful single malt in 1891. Now, there was a famous whisky author known as Arthur Bernard who travelled the length and breadth of Scotland and England and wrote a book about the distilleries of the United Kingdom. And when he visited here in 1893, he referred to Craigellachie as a style seldom met today. So it was seen as this very old style of Speyside whisky. We often talk about Speyside as this kind of fruity orchard fruit note. Well, actually, traditionally, it would have been heavy, oily, and robust. And that's exactly what Craigellachie was all about. Now, since that, we have had generations of workers here at Craigellachie who've passed that knowledge down and allow us to still recreate that spirit that we do today, that kind of robust, really oily, slightly different style of Speyside that you would expect today, but we're very proud of that and we still respect that style of whisky. We've had a few changes here on site. The distillery that you'll see out here now is not the original distillery that was built back in 1891. It was knocked down in the mid-1960s, where we went through expansion and we doubled the capacity here. That happened across a lot of distilleries in Scotland at the time, and the iconic roller windows that you see outside. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh my gosh, Craigellachie, one of my favourite distilleries. I drive past, I have to stop, take that photo when the windows are fully open, because we'll never get inside. Those windows were put in during the expansion in the mid-60s, and a lot of people believe it's there to regulate the temperature in the still house. We're not that kind. It allows us, if we ever need to change the stills in there, to remove the stills from the windows rather than taking the roof off, which was the previous way of doing it. So a rich history of this distillery, and still very proud to be making quite a unique spirit here in Speyside.
Well, thank you for all that. It would be great now to go and have a wee look around the distillery, so let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Not many people get the opportunity to be in here, and this is where it all begins. Our malt, that is a laureate varietal that's coming from Bucky Maltings, is delivered at the other end of the malt bins here, stored in these malt bins, and when ready, it'll come along this conveyor belt up to the top of the building here, pass through our destoner, and then pass through our Porteous mill here, our 4-roller Porteous mill. That'll take around about 3 to 4 hours, where we crack open the grain and create our grist. All right, I am currently standing at where the old mash tun used to be. Now in 2001 it was removed, and you could see where it would be here in the middle of this floor. Behind you is the grist bins, so the grist stored here, the hot water stored there. It was very efficient for us to have the mash tun in this area. However, we went through expansion in 2001 to create more liquid, so we had to move our mash tun. So follow me and I'll show you where that is. Welcome to what is quite honestly one of the funkiest smelling tun rooms in the Scottish whisky industry. This room is full of different flavours. Now in here we have 8 washbacks, of which they're all made from Siberian larch. Now that wort is brought down here, it'll fill one of these and we will add liquid yeast. We will ferment for up to 56 hours, on average 56 hours, which will create this incredibly funky tropical fruit note, sulphur notes within our spirit. This is our Steinecker mash tun. This was the new one that was put in 2001. Now, if you look up, it'll tell you where we're standing. Now, a very unique place to find a mash tun is inside the pagoda itself, so the dog ventilator. Now, we put this in 2001, a massive piece of German engineering. We took the wall off here, brought it in 2 parts, and it's welded up the middle. Now, the water we use is the water from the Craigellachie burn. Now, it is pumped in, comes along the screw where it's mixed with the grist, and fills into our mash tun. Okay, we're going to run 3 different waters through this. The first 2 waters are going to remove the sugars that we need for the alcohol production at the next stage, and the last one is the sparge that's going to take the final sugars that then will become the first water of the next run. Okay, but once those 2 waters are done, they're going to pipe next door and down into fill one of our fermentation tanks. Okay, welcome to the still house here at Craigellachie. Now, when you enter, you come down the stairs, you get a very unique view of the bottom of the kettles here, where the steam coil would enter at the bottom of the still. So you get to see where the old direct fire still would have been underneath here, before we head up and see the actual still room itself. welcome to the Craigellachie Stillhouse. Now, this is something that you may have seen when you drive past. It's those big roller windows at the front. Everyone stops to take a photo. There was a couple out there taking a photo already. But once you get in here, you get to see the sheer size of these stills. Quite possibly some of the largest stills here in the Scotch whisky industry. Now, obviously, we doubled the stills, so we're going through our wash stills here and then through our spirit stills there at the back. What's unique about Craigellachie is we're going to run these hard, we're going to run them fast. All right, so very little reflux and all those heavier oils and compounds going up over the lin arm and condensing back down into our safe. It's here where we really create the character of Craigellachie. What you will notice, anyone with a keen eye will notice that we're missing something at the back wall here. The shell and tube condenser that would normally sit at the end of the lin arm. You can see it just disappears outside. That takes us to our worm tub. So if you follow me, I'll take you up there. Okay guys, we're standing in one of the most unique places in Scotch whisky. This is the worm tubs at Craigellachie. Behind me you have the River Spey just there in the village of Craigellachie. Now, below us are the worm tubs. And if you look here, this is the lin arm coming out of the stills, out of the wall there that I showed you before we came up, and into the worm tubs itself. Now, it'll start really, really large, but every level it goes down and coils down, it'll get a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller before it heads back in and into the spirit safe. Now, what happens here is there's a condensing of the vapor back into liquid. There's a film that builds up on the copper pipe that will prevent any copper interaction. So what you have here is less copper interaction than you would have a shell and tube condenser. It will create a robust and oily spirit, bringing all those heavier compounds over. Well, this is the traditional way of condensing whisky, but in the 60s we saw massive changes into shell and tube condensers, much more efficient. There is only around about 18 distilleries still in Scotland that have these. There was a number of distilleries that removed theirs, and they could not. This is quite a unique place to be for a worm tub condenser, because most of them are wooden out the back of distilleries. What we have here is a stainless steel one, so you can feel the temperature differentiation from the top to the bottom. The top is really, really warm, but as we move down, it becomes cooler and cooler, and that is where the whisky will condense at different levels, creating different characters in it. Okay, and that concludes our tour. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We look forward to hopefully seeing as many of you as possible over the Spirit of Speyside Festival.